All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started if everybody wouldn't mind taking their seats. And while we're taking our seats, I just want to remind everyone we do have translation services available for anybody that needs them. Natalia, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, Natalia's here if you need translation services. Please find Natalia at the back of the room and she can assist you. Oh.
Boa noite a todos. Se alguém precisar de interpretação, estarei aqui para interpretar em português atrás, tá bem? If anyone needs interpreter service in Portuguese, I'll be in the back.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. Another great turnout for this project. We'll be pulling out a few more seats. So if anybody needs a chair, please don't hesitate to grab one in the back there. My name is Jim Kupfer. I'm your Director of Planning and Development for the town of Barnstable. And tonight I'll be walking through the Downtown Hyannis Great Streets project. This is a project that's been a long time coming, and I'm excited to present to you the options that we have before us. I'm joined tonight by our town engineer, Griffin Bowden. Thank you, Griffin. He's going to be taking over and giving the nuts and bolts of the project later on in this presentation. I'm also joined by Stantec Engineering, who's really helped us along with all the different details and the data behind this project. And they've been with us for the long haul since the beginning of the project here. So with that, I thought I would quickly go through our agenda. So tonight I'm going to give an overview of the project, where we've been, how we got here, hand it over to Griffin to talk about the nuts and bolts of the suggested changes. We'll talk about timeline. Then we'll open it up to some general comments or questions. Really just interested in generally any questions you may have, but many of you have already taken advantage of the boards in the back. We have boards in the back. We would love to talk to you one-on-one. It's meant to be, how does this impact each of you? And so we want to engage one-on-one if there's an opportunity. If you have questions, how is my store going to be impacted? How am I, as a resident, going to be impacted on a day-to-day? What's going to change because of this? And the team here is here to answer those questions and hopefully get you a question either tonight or follow up with you shortly thereafter. So, what is the Downtown Hyannis Great Streets Project? We have a fun little name, Great Streets Project, but really what we're talking about here is the return of two-way travel. Many of you might recall when Main Street was two ways, and we are here proposing the return of both Main Street two-way and South Street two-way, as long as some of the side streets that are currently one-way that help build out that network. I got asked early on tonight, why the change? And so, I thought I've been thinking long and hard about this for a few years now, why we've been doing this project. And there's so many reasons why the change. The change for Main Street to make it a flourishing Main Street business community. The change for all of us as residents and neighbors of Main Street to be able to walk or move through Main Street in a safe and favorable manner, where we're not, disputing between cars. And one of the first questions or statements I remember when I first started in my position here was several members of our community saying, "Oh, Main Street lost its luster when the mall came." And boy, that was what, 50, 60 years ago? We got to think about something else here, guys. And so, we really jumped on that and have been trying to think what is best for Main Street, what is best for downtown Hyannis. So we started in our study area. I think we'll note, all of you will probably note, and I have noted several times, that this study area is the Great Streets project, but there's a lot of opportunities to build off of this Great Streets project. When this is all said and done, there's going to be a number of other projects where we say, we can better this intersection, or we can better this pedestrian connection. I've heard a lot of actual ideas already tonight to continue the conversation. So I'm excited about that opportunity. But tonight we're talking about the Great Streets project study area, which is South Street, Main Street, North Street. So South Street, essentially at what we call the 6 Points intersection, our intersection here, lovely intersection of Ocean, South, and Old Colony, thank you. And heading towards the hospital, then going back up north to Main Street, going through our intersections, taking a right onto Barnstable Road and a left onto North Street, and bringing it all the way to the West End Rotary and coming back around and following South Street. So that's our study area that we gave a lot of thought to. And so we started to build out the process, and we started with an analysis of existing conditions. That's what we always do as planners. We look at the data first. We had our great team of Stan Tech and Jeff Speck look through our existing conditions. What are our turning movements now? What is our volume counts at every intersection? What are our known paths? What are our known choke points? And how can we and what are our next steps to better each of those? Oh, thank you so much. Much better. So our next steps, as if any of you have joined me in other planning sessions, we start with our data and then we move to the people. So we started with the data, understanding what is our conditions today. All of us know how we move around. So we have the data, but we want to hear from all of you. How do you guys move around? How do you leave your house and go to work? How do you leave your house and drop off your kids? How do you go enjoy Bismore or Azleton or all the businesses on Main Street? We wanted to get to know what your data is, what your real experience data is, and what your preferences are. So we had a number of boards. We were right here in this meeting room, and we actually had an attendance much like this, a great attendance that started the dialogue about what we could do to better our downtown. We followed that up with stakeholder meetings. So we had businesses in, we had the fire chief, the police chief, anyone who might have a stakeholder, a degree of stakeholder in downtown Hyannis, Steamship Authority, Highline, et cetera, all the businesses, people at the harbor, et cetera, try to get them involved as much as possible. And so we started to hear what individuals are saying. And we said, all right, let's put some concepts on the board to really have a discussion. So probably many of you were there at our high school for another packed house where we talked about different concepts. What are favorable for our community? What's a favorable next step for our community? And we put out boards, and we tried to talk with as many folks as we could about what our conceptual next steps are. We took all that feedback, we brought back our design team, and we looked at what those final concepts could be. And that ultimately resulted in the Great Streets Downtown Hyannis Walkable Heart for Cape Cod report. That's really the concept report. It's on our town website, right on the planning department page. On the right side, there's Great Streets Project, and we have that report right there. It kind of goes through intersection by intersection. What are the typical improvements? What are the recommendations? And so that was really, okay, here's the project. Now let's figure out how to implement it. Come to find out, it's pretty darn difficult to implement projects. So we got our town engineer involved, we got our DPW who've been along for the ride, and we talked about how this project can be implemented. So we looked at, again, our report. Our report talks about our current roadway conditions and how we can improve them. So what are our conflicts? And again, this is all things that, yes, the data, the numbers tell us this, but many of you also told us this. You know, there's key intersections that are just congested, and they're congested for a number of different reasons. Some of them we're not going to solve. Getting out of the High Line when the boat drops off, we're not going to solve that congestion problem. In my opinion, that's a good problem to have. We have a destination location. I have the boat schedule on my refrigerator. I don't go that way when the boat gets out. But we have a lot of intersections that we can improve congestion. And we can do that by giving more opportunities. And so we looked at different turning movements and how we could split the difference is what I like to say. You know, when you have to turn left because all these different ways are one way, you now have multiple options to get through. The second is jockeying. This is one of the biggest safety issues I think we have for downtown, what we see on South Street more so than ever with the speed, and then Main Street simply not paying attention, in my opinion. And the jockeying is prevalent year-round. I like to try and cross Main Street, and you know, I'm a healthy individual, and I take my time because even though a car stops and another car is 20 feet away, I'm still not crossing until that second car is at a full stop. Cars traveling eastbound immediately diverted off of Main Street. This is kind of a no-brainer for Main Street. You're coming from the west, you're coming from Centerville, Osterville, et cetera, and you're coming down West Main Street, you're going through the Rotary, you want to go enjoy your favorite Main Street restaurant, and you're immediately diverted to South Street. This seems like a no-brainer, and so we've included this. You're still able to go divert to South Street, but you're not forced to divert to South Street. So again, as I mentioned, our project goals, addressing congestion where possible, enhancing that public realm. That's a fun term just to say we need to do better for Main Street. We need to make it a place, a destination, as opposed to just a highway corridor that we're all driving through as quick as possible. This isn't going to get you through Main Street quicker, and that's the point. We want you to come enjoy Main Street. Place more emphasis on our pedestrians, our people that are enjoying Main Street and the general area. Traffic calming in certain areas, South Street specifically, slowing vehicles. Finally, getting stop control at High School and South Street, and encouraging other opportunities to get around. So roadway improvements. We're not moving. Sorry, I'll just touch on this and I'll hand it off to you if that's okay. So we're not moving a lot of curb line. The goal here was to do it as efficient as possible and reduce the cost of a project, but also we can do it because we have sufficient width in our roadway already. We have very wide lanes, and those wide lanes are, again, conducive to speeding. So the overall objectives, the overall improvements here, two-way Main Street, two-way South Street. That was the start of the project. Replacing several of our traffic signals with stop signs. That's going to be a change, but that's a safety change. Again, I think about as I'm coming home and I'm approaching on Barnstable Road and I want to cross over Main Street right over at Soho, and I see that green light and I say, I can get there. And so I book it. I'll admit, I book it. And, there's pedestrians all around me. I'm very lucky that I've made it through that intersection safely. But a stop control forces all of us stop, look around, and go. And there's several other intersections where that will be the case. Proper reduced lane width. So again, we got these real wide lanes. Even if we're not changing the road, we're gonna paint the lanes to a proper width. That, at least in drivers' minds, begin to slow vehicles down. We're going to look to enhance pedestrian accommodations as well as ADA improvements. That was something that we as we're sitting there looking at the 6-point intersection, we said, what else can we do to improve our project? And we're listening to the public, and we said, those are some very important items that we need to start targeting, and we have. And our town engineer has done a great job of looking at different ways to improve, along with many of our stakeholders. Continuous on-street parking, we're gaining parking here. We're actually going to gain a number of parking spaces, again, because of just the sheer width of our roads. There's going to be areas in which we have enough space for one lane going one way, one lane going another way, and a whole lane of parking. So we're actually going to gain a number of areas of parking. I'm sorry, what? Oh. Yep. Yep, there's several side streets where we're actually going to be gaining a number of parking. Yep. Again, on the side streets where there's no parking now. That's correct. Within the study area, there's going to be a number of side streets that have some extra width that we're going to actually gain. We looked at every area in which we could try to find extra parking, and we've done so. Loading zones, mentioned. We are not proposing to paint and designate specific loading zones that are reserved all day, every day. We are proposing signage. That is for a certain period of time in the mornings for loading zones at this time. And then capital improvements, again, as I mentioned, we're not moving a lot of curb line here. The capital improvements is what we mean by just kind of larger projects. So 6 points intersection, again, the larger project, and we'll talk about that, the board's back there. And then the Western Gateway, what we refer to as where South Street and Main Street come together. Griffin will walk through both of those. And North Street sidewalk extension, trying to get that sidewalk all the way down to the West End Rotary.
Were there any accommodations made for the backup of tractor-trailer trucks trying to get waiting for the ferry? Because South Street, living in front of South Street, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., you have tractor-trailer trucks backed up in front of our complex, and the ferry that goes out to Nantucket is a half mile? Yeah, a quarter mile down. If you're keeping that to one lane for each direction, where are you placing?
Yeah, well.
Blocking the traffic?
Yep, okay. So first off, if we could get through the presentation, then I'll take general questions, but I will address this one. So this sounds like Steamship Authority is what you're referring to, and the tractor trailers there. We can certainly have a conversation with Steamship Authority because we don't propose additional tractor trailer parking off on street anywhere. So we certainly will have to have a discussion with Steamship Authority. They've been a stakeholder along the way. They might have to open those gates earlier, is what it sounds like. But thank you. That's a conversation we'll have to have with them. All right. So what is the current status of this project? Now I'm going to hand it off to Griffin to talk about the different aspects of the project and get into a little bit more detail and schedule. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. And just to introduce myself again, I'm Griffin Bowden. I'm the town engineer for the town of Barnstable. So where are we with this project? As Jim described, we've done a large outreach effort. We've gone through a number of concepts, and we've been putting the real pens to paper, as I would call it, and advancing our design from a concept to a real design that can be buildable. Right now, we characterize that as a 75% construction drawings. That basically is we're beyond the concept. We've worked out a lot of the details. There are fine details that'll need to be resolved to advance to a construction set as to how exactly certain areas are going to be constructed. But this is an advanced concept that is approaching when we are able to go out and build this thing. So up here, and there's a large board in the back, which I would encourage everybody to look at after we go through our presentation, shows the study area. You know, Jim just had the square that showed that study area. This is a rendering of the proposal in the area. Can't expect everybody to see it up there. It's available on the website and again in the back, but it displays the study area and it shows where the work will be occurring. On the top of the screen, and it's not wanting to work. All right. we'll wing it. So on the top, the left to right road on the top of the screen would be North Street, in the middle would be Main Street, and on the bottom would be South Street. In the kind of lower right, you see the greenish area. That's the 6 Points intersection, which we'll get into some more detail on. All right, Main Street. So this is a typical cross-section of what Main Street will look like in the two-way condition that we're proposing. As Jim noted, the existing lanes in this area are wide, which gives us an advantage here. So what we're looking to do in this section, this is effectively from Center Street to Stevens Street, so the main portion of Main Street before we reach that western gateway. We'd be looking to reduce the lane widths to 10 feet wide, which will naturally result in slowing down and calming of traffic because the wide lanes now, as well as the two-way, creates a highway feel, right? So by reducing the lane widths, we would encourage reduced speeds. We'll be doing that by making wider parking spaces, right? So we've all seen people who can't necessarily fit into the parking spaces now. They'll actually be slightly wider in order to narrow the roadway. This is a cross-section of South Street. As Jim alluded to, South Street is proposed to be converted to a two-way configuration as well. Similar approach, although slightly different in this case. We similarly would be reducing the lane widths from currently 13 to 14 feet wide, one way. It's effectively a highway feel when you drive down South Street. There's about 28 feet wide of pavement in most places. So we would be looking to reduce this to about 10 feet wide lanes and adding a bike lane on the southern side of the roadway, which would be separated by a separator, a painted separator island, to have an eastbound pedestrian network heading kind of from the western end of town towards the eastern end of town. And our thinking there is that this area that we would be reserving, which is shown on the right side here, is an additional 6 feet that in the future would be more or less reserved for a potential shared use path or a more permanent pedestrian facility that would be a larger capital improvement. But as Jim alluded to, a lot of what we're looking to do here with this program is utilize signs, utilize paint, make this two-way conversion work with a couple of capital improvements that are necessary, and then build upon it as we advance through time. So that would be one area we'd be looking to build upon this in the future. Similar to South Street is North Street. It's basically the opposite. So 10-foot wide lanes, similar, so we'd be reducing. We have wide pavement there. We have additional excess pavement. We'd be looking to utilize that excess pavement on the north side of the street and install a one-directional bike lane heading in westbound. So you would effectively have a bike track that circulates using South Street going eastbound and North Street going westbound. In addition, one other thing for North Street, which we'll discuss in a moment, is there's a noticeable pedestrian facility gap from Stevens Street to the West End Rotary. There was a recently the town council appropriated funds to install a new pedestrian facility in that location. So incorporated into this project is a new sidewalk from Stevens Street to West End Rotary, which we'll show you in a moment. Jim alluded to intersection controls. This is a map of what the intersections will look like in the study area. Don't expect you to be able to tell where everything is, but effectively there will be 3 traffic signals remaining within the study area. Right now there's, I think, 10. There's a significant amount of traffic signals in the study area that will be reduced. The remaining traffic signals will be Main Street at Camp and Lewis Bay, Main Street at Old Colony and Ocean Street, and North Street at High School Road. And in addition, the 6 Points intersection will be modified to be a roundabout, as we've discussed, and we'll go into detail in a moment. Jim alluded to this, the High School Road intersection at South Street, currently only stop controlled on High School Road, and South Street, we have that 2 lanes of one-way traffic that creates a very unsafe condition. The proposal would be, obviously, we convert to the two-way traffic, as well as making this a 4-way stop-controlled intersection to improve safety. and enhance the pedestrian facilities in the area. So 6 Points intersection, this is what this intersection looks like today. Everybody in this room, I'm sure, is very familiar with it. The problems with this intersection are fairly numerous, and the name that we call it kind of gives credence to one of them, which is there are 6 approaches to it. There's just a lot going on in this location. 4 of the approaches are one-way, which is kind of counter to the two-way concept that we're enhancing here. It's difficult for pedestrians to cross. The traffic signals are antiquated and don't have great pedestrian facilities. And we evaluated as part of the initial study area the concept of keeping the traffic signal here. The decision was made, and it became abundantly obvious as we continued to advance that concept that a roundabout was really the right technical solution here under a two-way scenario. And this is what the proposal looks like. There's another board in the back that you can see this blown up that's similar. I'll start from the top of the screen, but basically this is a properly sized roundabout. It's similar to the roundabout near the HYCC, although slightly larger. It has a mountable, the red area in the middle would be a mountable curb, mountable surface so that large vehicles are able to navigate the roundabout. So that's a question that we received prior to this presentation when we were having some conversations. We have done the turning templates to ensure that large vehicles are able to navigate this this roundabout. That was obviously a critical design consideration. Every road coming in and leaving here would be a two-way. So right now, South Street, the north side of Old Colony and the north side of Ocean Street are one-way. All of those would be converted to two-way under this scenario, under this proposal. Every approach to the intersection has upgraded pedestrian facilities, widened sidewalks that would be utilized for multi-purpose. We would propose to reduce an approach to this intersection, so it will not be 6 points forever. It'll be reduced down to 5 points. So that southern side, the southern approach into the roundabout where Old Colony comes in was too tight to be able to accommodate it with this roundabout, and then to ensure safety to all motorists, and also to create a large green space in the southern portion of the area. That section has been eliminated. There are still two ways to access both Ocean and South Street under this proposal, utilizing the existing approach to Ocean Street, which is shown on the bottom of the screen, and also the existing kind of underutilized approach over near kind of the Armory would be improved a bit, so that would be another option for that section of the intersection. All right. And again, there are blowups in the back, and we encourage conversations at the end. We can point and have discussions about every aspect of it. So the Western Gateway, as Jim alluded to, this is where South Street meets Main Street. Currently, you come from the west and you're heading towards Main Street, and you get diverted right down South Street, or you're coming from the east and you continue down Main Street, but you're kind of forced, your hand's forced at the current arrangement with both roads being one way. So the intent would be, in order to accommodate the two-way conversion, the geometry really needs to be improved here, but also it gives folks decisions. It gives alternatives, right? So instead of being forced to go down South Street, if you're coming from the west, you have the opportunity to continue down Main Street if that's your prerogative and your destination. Or you could bypass Main Street and go down South Street still, just as you're able to today. So this is what the proposal looks like. So we would be, right now we kind of have the V as you come in, right? So you're forced down South Street if you're coming from the west. We were looking to reutilize the slip lane that exists at the intersection and widen it and improve it to a proper 90-degree intersection, which would be stop controlled from South Street onto Main Street. Doing so allows us to, again, create a space. There's a green area that's able to be created to the west of this intersection. You'll see, similar to the 6 points, there is the the brownish, reddish area there. That's similarly a tracking area, like, so we had that inner circle at the roundabout to accommodate larger vehicles. This would be to accommodate larger vehicles. So this would be a mountable area that larger vehicles would be able to make that turn if necessary. Further west from the intersection, I'll draw your attention to some of the red areas there. This is the continuation of Main Street right now. As you kind of go past that South Street intersection and head towards the West End Rotary, you have an enormous amount of pavement. And so the intent here would be to continue those narrow 10-foot wide lanes through that corridor all the way to the West End Rotary. And the way to do that is to utilize parking. Parking spaces on the north, parking spaces on the south, as well as what we're showing as painted islands, which would basically designate the lanes. South of those painted islands, we're showing a bike lane as well. So that bike lane would continue all the way from the West End Rotary down South Street, as I previously described. So this tightens this area up and promotes improved speeds.
Would you mind just pointing out there what you're talking about? Because I'm a little lost.
The pointer's not, unfortunately, the pointer's not working, but I'm happy to discuss it with you in the back. But on the left side of the screen, you have the red areas. Why don't you? Yeah, thanks, Jim. So on the left side of the screen, we have these areas that are kind of hatched in a different color there. That would be a painted reserved area. So rather than installing curb, we would be painting these areas with a different color to symbolize that they're not areas to drive on. In between the roadway and that area, there would be on-street parking, and then on the south side of that, there would be a bike lane in between the existing sidewalk and that painted area. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So, all right. So if the concern is how to get down South Street, yeah. So right there, that's where South Street would continue. Unfortunately, the pointer is working against me. There it goes. All right. So. This would be the intersection, right? So right now South Street comes down and you kind of just have this speedway right through here, right? There is also this small area for you to take a left onto South Street and kind of do a U-turn. We would widen that area and make it an all-way intersection effectively, and close off that bypass area that currently exists, making a green space in this location. So this would be how you would access South Street. And then if you were coming down South Street, because now you're able to go westbound down South Street, you would come to a stop sign in this location, and when you had the opportunity to, you could either take a right down Main Street, or you could take a left and head to the West End Rotary.
So is this going to basically be like the Otis Rotary, where it's like everybody go at the same time, once they stop and go?
Well, there's no rotary in this location. There's no rotary proposed. The roundabout was at the other location at 6 points. This is on the West End, where Main Street. There is one stop sign proposed here on South Street. There's not currently a proposal for a stop sign on Main Street in this area. Yeah, so it's a traditional T intersection in this location now. One additional feature of the project is, as I alluded to, is the extension of the North Street sidewalk. So from the West End Rotary, it's very hard to see here, but this is the West End Rotary here, and this is Stevens Street, and this is North Street, right? So from along this corridor, there's no sidewalk right now, which is unfortunate and certainly a necessary improvement to this stretch. So we have sought funding from the town council to do this project. In the FY26 capital budget, the town council appropriated the funds for this capital improvement, and so we're incorporating it into this program, as it just makes a ton of sense to do it as part of this program. So there would be a new 8-foot wide sidewalk from Stevens Street to the West End Rotary, which would terminate at the subway driveway and then connect to the existing pedestrian facilities in that location. So this is an added improvement to the program that has been included in the project. So project timeline. We're anticipating advancing the current design to what we call 100% design. So that would be a completed design that's ready to be built and ready to go out to bid. So from there, we would issue an invitation for bid. That would be our process to put the project out to bid and have contractors submit their proposal to build the project. That would be done in this upcoming spring. We're targeting commencing construction in the fall of 2026. We anticipate it'll take about a construction season to complete, so we would be targeting completion in the spring of 2027. So I'll hand this back to Jim for how to stay up to date.
So real quick before we move to that, just want to talk about just completion of construction. Couple things here. So one, very cognizant of the fact that we're trying not to impact downtown Hyannis in the summer season, right? So the goal here is wrapping up in the spring. There might be some punch list items, but those items will not be something that's going to impact traffic flow in downtown Hyannis. Secondly, not really spelled out here, but we are very much aware that this is going to be a change. It's going to be a change for our year-round residents. It's going to be a change for our tourists. We're going to have significant, we've been working with our police and fire and DPW about significant signage package, significant communication package, significant safety package for unveiling of it. So as we're building up to flipping that switch and turning it two-way, we'll be introducing all of those education items so that all of us are aware that this is occurring. Despite the fact that we've been talking about this for quite some time, I'm sure there's a lot of residents that this is going to be their first they're hearing of it. So we want to make sure that we're doing this in a safe manner. And then also, if it doesn't line up for when our tourist season begins, we might have to do it again to make sure that our tourists, as they're coming in, are very much aware because they haven't been here since the last summer, let's say, and it's all going to be new to them. So we're going to make sure that we have a robust communication package. So meanwhile, as we're progressing, to stay up to date, our planning and development webpage, so the town of Barnstable's webpage, go to planning and development. And right on the right-hand side, we have the Great Streets Downtown Hyannis link, which will have that report I showed you in the beginning. It'll have all of the slides that Griffin and I have touched on. It'll have those specific designs of the capital projects and our contacts. If there's any additional questions, you'll be able to reach us from there. Email, call, stop by our office. We want to hear from you. We want to discuss those nuances that you might be aware of that we need to be aware of. So with that, we'll plan on having an open house. Before we dive into the open house, we'll get to some general questions. And it's meant to be kind of a one-on-one discussion afterwards. Well, I won't vouch for Griffin, but I'll certainly be staying for a while. We have Griffin for a while, too. And we'll have Jason from Stantec here as well. And the three of us, as well as Paul Graves in the back and Kate Maldonado in the back as well, happy to answer any questions that are more one-on-one, and we'll open up. Yep. Thank you all so much. And so we'll open up some general questions. This gentleman's been raising his hand for some time now. Yes, sir.
For those of us who remember,
yeah.
it took over 5 years to do C Street. And this is a much bigger project than C Street. So you're saying it's going to be done in 2 years?
So there's significantly less capital improvements necessary as part of this project, and we've purposely designed the project this way. The most complicated part of this project is the 6 Points intersection. And with C Street, the longest time that it took on C Street was, frankly, for utility pole relocations. We're starting that effort now, and we have minimized the utility pole locations that are necessary. They're really only at 6 Points intersection. The rest of the project doesn't require any utility relocations. So we anticipate that's an achievable timeline.
Does this work? Yes, perfect. Right here.
My question is, how are you going to get all of the hundreds of tourists coming down Old Colony, Ocean Street, across down to the boats, the walkers, we live right there. Constant people, how are they going to get across? There's no lights.
All right. I'll take a stab at this, and Jim, you can as well. So there are a number of pedestrian crossings that are proposed at the 6-point intersection, and there's a number of enhanced pedestrian facilities here. Do you have a follow-up question? Okay. All right. So, each one of these hatched areas here is a crossing. So if you're coming from the transportation center, for instance, there's the existing sidewalk, which we have the goal of enhancing in the future, that we will be picking up as you approach the roundabout. So kind of this area that's colored in here is really the project area where the roundabout's necessary to be built. So the sidewalk will be enhanced through this corridor here, and you will be brought to a crosswalk kind of in a similar location where the crosswalk exists today. And you'll be able to cross to Asleton Park and then go.
So right now, we're proposing at certain locations some blinking, flashing lights for pedestrians to be activated to engage with the vehicles. Not at all locations, but at this location, it's very likely warranted. And we'll evaluate as it progresses whether or not we need to enhance that or reduce it. But we're very much cognizant that, this is the critical area where pedestrians are going from our main street to our harbor. The goal here is actually connections, making it this one walkway to the sea is what we call it, through the Village Green on down. And also, I should note, not just the pedestrian connectivity, but the mere fact that we're now slowing down vehicles dramatically. Again, South Street, all of us are probably guilty of this, of bolting down South Street at a very high rate because it's designed that way. As you're approaching down South Street, I believe you're stopped twice at stop signs now. So you're no longer able to get to that 65 miles an hour. You're stopped multiple times. And as you're engaging, coming into the roundabout, and if we're lucky enough to have a significant amount of pedestrians coming to our harbor, enjoying our harbor, now you're engaging with them as opposed to being that bullet going through our South Street area. So we have given that a lot of thought, and also, as Griffin alluded to, Old Colony, significant amount of width. We all know that. It's basically 3 lanes. We're looking to enhance that pedestrian connectivity. I'm exhausted watching people leave that transportation center, rolling their luggage, and the sidewalk is in disrepair and not wide enough. So we're certainly cognizant of that and want to address this. Just 1 second. Let's go.
When we came to the third final meeting, there was no mention of ADA compliance. I said, now you say there is. What's the difference now?
What are they?
Yeah, so the improvements that are proposed as part of this program are replacement of the curb ramps on Main Street, as well as enhanced ADA parking spaces on Main Street.
Say enhanced, what does that mean? Can you define
Right, so-
Instead of fancy, I think we need to talk layman's, so it's more specific, because it's a 6-inch granite curb in every handicap spot on Main Street, people aren't aware. So trying to get out of a car and get up over a curb, so it's just, we keep hearing signs and paints only, and that
Correct.
sometimes is a way to sidestep, because ADA requires if you start to do improvements, that you have to meet ADA compliance. So to me, it's almost a fancy way of the town managing. I know you're gonna shake your head, but we did a $250,000 transition plan in ’21 for, to have all of the facilities in Barnstable examined about ADA compliance and what improvements, and to my understanding, not a lot has been done. So we as a town, we're 35 years into ADA, folks, and the town has not stepped up. And this is the opportunity, tourism dollars. We have a wonderful aging community here on the Cape, but as you age, what comes with age, folks? Mobility issues, vision issues. We should be embracing that from a planning perspective, a downtown business, but instead we're giving the optics of sidestepping, because once you just say signs and paint and all that, that's basically saying we're not doing any physical changes. but it's just like, we as town have a responsibility. It's gonna be a lawsuit, like LA had one. A lot of big cities have had lawsuits because towns have not stepped up. It's the law, and we need to do better.
Yeah, and
Also, what is the width, and are there gonna be ramps if necessary at this rotary?
yes.
Where you're telling me there's cement blocks, you got us. We have about 10 motorized wheelchair right at Old Colony Road, the building. Now, what do you have there that makes it ADA?
Yeah, so every approach to this roundabout is going to have accessible ramps that meet the, for full compliance with the ADA.
In the width,
Correct.
you can get a regular cycler person and a motorized wheelchair
They will,
in that space.
they will all be fully compliant with the ADA.
You have aids for these people.
Correct.
So in between the rows,
That's correct.
How wide is that? Is that wide enough to hold a motorized chair? In between, since you'll have two lanes coming, you have to wait for the other lane. How wide is that median?
Yes, so they are sufficient width.
Sufficient width?
Correct.
And how-
I don't know off the top of my head exactly what the width is of those
like,
refuge
you have
islands.
8 people crossing at the same time to
they all-
wait. Is there a room for 8 people to be protected by that with a wheelchair or 2? Because some of us go together.
Mhm.
To be safely guided by that cement quickly coming off the ramp, quickly coming off the rotary.
Yeah, so I appreciate the comment, I do. We certainly will continue to look at, is there a need to widen those refuge areas? Perhaps that's something that we need to consider. But certainly our intent of this project and what will be done with this project is that any of the capital improvements will be fully compliant with ADA requirements, as well as Main Street, we will be enhancing the existing facilities. Correct. All the parking spaces will be compliant with the ADA.
Okay, when does that go? Because you said this is gonna be your base, and then for the future.
Yeah, it's part of the program. It's part of this project.
So that.
It'll be implemented as part of this project.
Spring 2027?
That's correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I hope to dovetail on that you're going to cut down those granite curbs on Main Street for those handicap spots, which really doesn't exist right now. I think it's a very important point she makes, and that really needs to happen. It needs to be just curbless for those handicap spots. But my concern is with this 6-point intersection. We're at 75% design, and I know there were a lot of residents, and I commented on the 6 points. I think you've taken away the wrong side of Old Colony. A lot of us live down in the south and come through here. I know you're making two-way that one to South Street, but it's still going to be difficult. We got the Harbor Hawks going on down there. It's very challenging, and no one's going to get in on Ocean Street. Not going to happen. So that's going to be fairly useless. And now, if you took away the northern part of Old Colony, left the southern point, you said it was too crowded, but it's just as crowded on the north side, so I don't think that argument holds a lot of water. You've got 307 Main Street, a rather large apartment building going in. Their parking is coming off of Old Colony. You've got the Old Colony, the Housing Authority building. We've heard from a lot of residents out there this evening. You could calm that, and Jim, you mentioned, and I see it too, the people struggling with their bags coming off the train or the buses, coming down to the ferries. You could make a gorgeous area up there and just have limited residential access to these apartments. And it bothers me that we've gotten to 75% design and we don't have a second option here. This is the only thing you're really changing, with the exception of that little change you've done down at the West End. And I think we need a separate design for this so that people have an option before we gallop towards 100%. I think you've missed the residents here. And I do think having a rotary here with the amount of pedestrians is a non-starter. You need some lights. People are going to be run over. It's not going to work. Before you go, as I say, galloping towards 100%, we need another option here, and we need to look all the way up and think about those apartment buildings. I haven't heard anybody mention that. What's going to happen when we start all of that parking there? And I'll pass it to Stewie, because I know he has some comments.
And Mr. Bornstein, if I may just respond real quick before you go. So I would disagree with a few of those comments, particularly in terms of the alternatives analysis, 75% design. We gave a number of different options actually at the 25% design, and this, by and large, through the public and the data, reflect a roundabout at this location for pedestrian and for safety all around. That includes all the development that is potentially coming. So while some might say we're not including it, we certainly are looking at all the different developments. I would disagree also with the Old Colony stretch. The Old Colony North, while lots of good improvements can occur on that stretch, it's still a needed stretch. The most redundant point is this point here. Yes, that's the neighborhood south of there. I am one of those residents. Yeah, I use this because I can. I will use this because I can. Thank you. And also, I will say on Ocean Street, this area here, yes, again, at peak times, you're not getting out. You're not getting out. But as I mentioned, I got my schedule on my refrigerator. I'm not taking a left out of my driveway to go to the High Line when the boat comes out. I'm going down Gosnell and up C Street. But even that, even if you wanted desperately to get in line on Ocean Street, you got Nantucket. Nantucket's nice and wide and can get you there. So you have so many options that I'm sorry, this by far is the best alternative for this location in terms of this area. And I'll give it to Mr. Bornstein.
Yeah, I can see a lot of work and a lot of planning went on this, and overall it's not bad, but there are a couple of things that really stick. North Street, you're going to make the lanes 8 feet wide. Now, my SUV is over 7 feet with
10
mirrors.
feet. 10 feet.
The lanes themselves are going to be 8 feet.
10 feet.
That's not what was said, because you're going to put a bicycle path in there and take it down to 8 feet. That's what I was told just now. And if that's the case, if my wife was coming in on the other side, I'd be scared to death to be on that other side.
10, and I will note 10 feet is like a school bus.
Oh, 10
just so you
feet
know.
isn't bad, but
Yeah.
8 was said. And if 10 is good, that's good. But the other question is, I'm on that street 10 times a day, back and forth, all day long. And I start at 7 in the morning, and the trucks on Main Street that are unloading for the stores, some trucks make as much as 10 or 12 stops for different stores, the whole length, and they're on that street for 5 or 6 hours, all day long. And when those trucks stop, we can go around them because we have 2 lanes on Main Street. When those trucks there are unloading, and you can't have, excuse me, there's no place to go, because if you got to go around them, there's cars coming from the other side. One thing to think about is maybe make one side of the road no car parking in the morning till 11 o'clock, so the trucks can pull in on one side, load and unload, and have a loading area the whole length. You can't do spot loading, because these drivers get $62 an hour, and they're not going to put the goods on a hand truck and walk 300 feet back. They just can't afford to do it. I just point that out, maybe put a timeline on it. And that's my big thing.
Thank you, sir. Excellent. Yes, ma'am.
He's coming around with the mic.
All right.
Good evening, Paulo Paraguay. I own Palio Pizzeria and Candy Corner. I just wanted to comment in terms of the delivery. Right now, we start receiving delivery as early as any time, because delivery drivers have access to our restaurant. So what that means is that we have deliveries that come in as early as 3 o'clock in the morning. P-Town has a curfew on deliveries. So if all the restaurants on Main Street develop that same system, it's doable. Our goal is to get the delivery drivers here with the plan that has been implemented from the town in Jim's department in terms of those loading zones, right? So having the loading zones, they can utilize those if they're here after hours, but we just need to really educate the delivery drivers to get here early, and they're able to do that. And I can tell you that all of them would be happy to get here and out as early as they can.
A couple of questions. First of all, with the taking away of lights and having 4-point stops or whatever they are, I'm thinking of High School Road and Main Street, Ocean Street and Main Street. As a pedestrian who walks there all the time and who drives there all the time, are you going to hire more police to help people walk or it just seems like there's going to be an accident or constant accidents. And the other thing I do have to say is, as a almost lifelong resident of Hyannis, I'm exhausted with I know we're trying to improve things, but there's a heck of a lot going on in Hyannis. A ton of new apartment buildings, and I think a lot of us are just kind of like exhausted. And sometimes reacting negatively because of the everything that's happening to our village. So if some of us get our backs up, try to be a little understanding, because it's where we live.
Absolutely, thank you. Back here, had a hand up for a while.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Batista. I own the building of 525 South Street where these young people live. And we just want to, first of all, thank the town and Stantec and everyone. I've been part of this process the whole time. I think it's been 3 years now, at least 2.5. And I've gone to all the meetings and heard all the proof of how this works. So thank you. It's wonderful to see it to come to fruition. As the people that own and live the building right here at this gateway, it's a wonderful plan. Our one question is, where is the stop sign in this general area, if you may? But again, we love it. We're so supportive. Thank you. And we can't wait for it to be done.
The stop sign would be right in this location here. So you can see the stop bar on South Street approaching Main Street. That's where you would be stopped. Correct. That will stay in place. The question was, will we keep the flashing light for the pedestrian crossing? And the answer is yes.
My question is for the off-street parking. I've been to many meetings here, and I find that a lot of the off-street parking is being taken up by the schools that are on Main Street, as well as the town parking spaces for the town employees. I myself cannot run into Puritans. I can't get a quick bagel. There's no place to park when the schools are in session. So I hear a lot about there's going to be a lot of off-street parking, but where are you planning on doing that? Because the last time I went to a meeting, you wanted us all to park at the west end, and I'm down here on the middle of Main Street trying to shop at these shops here. So I think if anything, the schools should be parking down there, and the people that want to actually shop on Main Street should get the prime spots.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. I know I didn't really see or hear anyone in the situation where there are wide loads on South Street. A lot of boats that come in and out of the water, and there are wide loads, and many times they move them through early in the morning, but they're not going to be able to do that because you're going to have two-way traffic. So that creates another issue with all of these wide loads in that area. And then I know that we're trying to attract more people to Main Street, and I work on Main Street, and many times because I go to work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and I don't get out till midnight, there's another issue here with safety, with the people that need parking close to where they work or need parking close to, because, once again, there's an ADA issue. There's no direct parking for that. I mean, I have to park pretty far away, and sometimes I have to ask for somebody to give me a ride or escort me to my car late at night. So even though you're trying to make this safer, There's some other issues going on here that also need to be addressed, I think. People aren't going to want to park and walk long distances to any of this for many reasons. And then I wanted to ask, I grew up here, and so yes, I remember two-way on Main Street. And they didn't have parallel parking. They had like an angled parking on one side of the street that you could pull in and out of. I have witnessed many people try and parallel park, and it takes forever. And if you can't go around them because there is one-way traffic, you are stuck there, and you are stuck there for a while. And you know that backs up and backs up and backs up. What do you do about that? What do you do? Do you change the parallel parking? I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. And yes, we are adding additional parking, but there is a bigger discussion that needs to be had in terms of parking management that is certainly ongoing and certainly will continue to.
Just one question. Hi, Laura Cronin in Hyannis. I live on South Street. I have a question as far as process and procedure there. You say when you get to 100%, does this go before the town council at all before it's implemented? Or how does that work?
So at this time, it's a discussion of how we wish to proceed in working with the town council. There isn't a requirement to go back before the council. We've progressed, we've updated, we presented to the town council. There is sufficient funding at this time for the project. Several grants that we've received for this project. We certainly can work with the council though, and I think the understanding was we'll come back once the 75% discussion has been had and we've relooked at the designs based on the comments and re-present to the council and hear any concerns they may have with it. But at the moment, there's no requirements to go back to the council. Yes, sir.
Yes, hi, I'm, excuse me, Philip Scudder. I'm a stakeholder, work at Highline Cruises, was involved in some of the early on discussions about this whole thing, and apparently, as I've seen where it's come to, that nothing much was listened to regarding stakeholder comments and concerns, and that bothers me a little bit. I have more concerns than just the six-way stop. I don't, in my own mind, don't know how anyone could look at that and say, geez, an airport rotary would go well down there on Ocean Street and South Street, you know. But even the four-way stops on Main Street, as someone was mentioning, on High School Road and Main Street, and Main Street and Barnstable Road or Ocean Street, you're looking at somebody that's going to be in line going in either direction, 4 or 5 cars behind, and everyone's got to come to a stop before that, and you finally get up there, and you got a family of 4 walking in front of you. And there's so much pedestrian traffic on Main Street, there's going to be people walking on those intersections all the time. It just doesn't seem realistic. And I wish there was a second option or something else you could look at for some of these things and not just say, okay, this is where we're going, because that seems to be where the engineers were dealing from, and the planners or whoever it was that we hired to bring in, saying this is the way it works in Idaho, this is the way it works in someplace else in the country. It'll work here, believe me. And that's basically a problem, I think, when we're going to run into it. And we did have two-way traffic on Main Street years and years and years and years ago, just on Main Street and South Street, without all this other stuff, and found out that it was a problem. And now we're just exacerbating that, I believe.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, we're not talking airport rotary here. We're talking more closer to the HYCC roundabout. 5 points. 5 points, correct.
5 points coming into a circle.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm sorry, just one more thing. As I was talking about it with my people down at my office, and they're saying it, you know, I know that you have to be aggressive. An aggressive driver when you come into something like that, a roundabout like this that has a lot of traffic. If it's at the community center, there's not a lot of traffic. There's no real big deal. You get here with traffic that's boat traffic, it's beach traffic, it's restaurants, it's public, it's residents, it's a hospital back and forth. There's going to be a lot of traffic there, and there's going to be people that are waiting to get in line. And if you don't have an aggressive driver that's going to get onto that roundabout, you'll have aggressive drivers behind them. I'll tell you that.
Hi, Brian Hughes, Hyannis. A year and a half ago, I went to the Great Streets presentation, and I was real excited. Sounds like some great ideas, some forward motion, and the promise seemed to be that, well, we're going to do some paint to do some experiments with this, especially with a 5-6 point intersection. The graphics I've seen tonight are almost all the same as I saw a year and a half ago, with the exception of, okay, you've done details on the Western Gateway and a detailed design for 6 points, 5 points. That was a year and a half ago when things were supposed to happen. Why is it taking so long? And if it's took that long to get to here, what chance do we have that in 27 will actually be done? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk a little bit about that if I can real quick. So yes, by and large, much of the project has stayed the same. Lines and signs is what we talked about a year and a half ago. Stop signs, paint, really the 6 points intersection. We looked at it. We looked at it with our fire chief, our police chief, with several stakeholders. I apologize, sir, if you felt like you weren't heard. But we sat back down with our stakeholders, and the option there wasn't conducive to the traffic. We were concerned about, or the fire chief clearly had a concern, and we said, well, if the fire chief has a concern, what are we even taking the next step forward? Let's hold, evaluate our options, and come back to the drawing board. And that's where you see a lot more substance and design here at the 6 points intersection specifically, is because of all the different stakeholders raising concerns about what those early options were. And yes, I apologize. It takes time. Our engineers, it takes time to make sure we get it right, vetting it with different stakeholders as well again. So yes, it has taken some time. I'm hopeful we can stay on track. The goal here, though, if we don't stay on track, it's still to not impact summer season. So if we're missing, the fall, then we're missing the spring as well, and we're coming back that next year. That's essentially where that's the commitment we've made, at least.
Everybody could probably hear me without this. I have two issues. One is that I would suggest at this rotary, because of the number of ambulances that come down South Street going to the hospital, is that the incoming lanes of traffic into the rotary get red lights. So that, and you have lights that the ambulance people can turn on as they're driving, which, stop everybody in all the directions, to stop incoming traffic coming into the circle so the ambulance can get through. Because there is no way, if you're in that circle, that you're going to be able to pull over to let an ambulance get by. The other thing, which Jim has heard me say many, many times, we live on South Street. Every day we hear people speeding down South Street. We've seen accidents, all along South Street. And the main intersection besides this intersection is High School Road and South Street. And I think we don't have to wait until 2027. I think we can make it a four-way stop now. And this gentleman disagreed with me. He said you don't have four-way stops when you have 2 lanes of traffic going in the same way. We currently have several 2-lane four-way stops on Independence Drive in between 132 and Mary Dunn Road. So we've already got those intersections in Hyannis, and I don't see why we have to wait to 2027 to make that intersection safer, not only for the drivers, but also for all those school kids who are going, because it's a really incredibly dangerous intersection.
Hi, I'm on this again, but it's the safety of the pedestrian, disability, and everyone that walks, not only the tourists, but the residents. But do we have any statistics, and what is actually the feet from the entrance off of, or the exit off of the rotary to that pedestrian walkway? Has there any statistics saying this is significantly enough room for the car to stop without any light saying, stop, it's a pedestrian? And number 2,
we have the ferries coming and going early in the morning and unloading at night when it's dark. Are you going to have street lights over these pedestrian walkways? Has any, like, I'm not really convinced the pedestrian part of this, which we put a lot of money into Walk to the Sea. We have a lot of pedestrian, we have elderly, we have disability, we have just the regular residents that want to walk and get their exercise, but do it safely. I think some of this needs to be looked into statistically and seen if this footage, which you haven't answered yet, how far is that and is it significantly enough?
So I don't know the distances off the top of my head, as we discussed earlier, but we've designed the roundabout to meet design criteria for these types of crossings. So there is sufficient space based on the design criteria that we have for this size of roundabout, and there is lighting proposed in the immediate vicinity of the roundabout. So the roundabout will have. Correct, yeah. It will be sufficient lighting to improve visibility at the roundabout and at all the pedestrian crossings. That is proposed as part of this effort.
You, sir.
Hi, Nate Wetton, Ocean Street. One of the things that works well where the rail trail crosses Great Western Road in Yarmouth is there's a flashing yellow light, and that flashes when anybody is on the bike trail. It does attract the attention of the motorists. And I'm just thinking that maybe that would work here with all the crosswalks.
We've implemented those in a number of locations throughout town, and we are considering implementing those flashing beacons, in this case push button as opposed to the bicyclist triggers it. So a pedestrian in those cases would push a button, it would flash, that would alert the motorists that the pedestrians are entering the roadway. So yes, that is something that's being considered.
Hi there, one more question for me. I live off Ocean Street, I work on North Street. Two huge business owners are in here tonight, and I'm just wondering if anybody has ever done any traffic studies or pedestrian studies to see how many people are actually going down Ocean Street to go to these restaurants, to go to the High Line, and to try and get their cars up and down the road. It's just, I can't see all those people getting through that rotary. I just can't see it. Too many people. Like Dave knows what he does every single night. The Scudders know what they're pulling every single day. It's thousands of people, and that's just two places right in one little area. I just think this isn't going to work. It's not going to work right now.
Better than what we got right now. It's better than what we got right now. That's what you're gonna look at.
Well, you can walk down our area anytime.
Okay, I have a bit of a different question. Everybody has really good points here, and I've learned a lot tonight. But so this is state funded. This is a state funded project.
Jim, you can speak to this as well, but there are multiple funding sources for the project. We've received a state grant for the design and a portion of the project, and anticipate utilizing other funding sources such as our Chapter 90 funding for this program. So.
Okay. Right. That was my next question.
The estimated budget for the total program was $5 million. Right. So it's the 25% design estimate. We don't have a 75% design estimate. Was $5.3 million. Correct. So we would anticipate it's probably around $6 million at this point.
Okay, and that's pre-construction, and you're going out to bid in the spring. And what if your bids exceed what you anticipate the project to cost? Where do you make cuts? What happens?
So there are some portions of the project that are decorative and nice to have, so that they would be areas that we would look to potentially consider putting structuring the bid as a bid alternate would be how we would put it. So we have the option to award those things, such as the areas that are painted with with red paint. There are other options as to how to deal with that. The other option would be to seek additional funding, either through state grants or state opportunities, or come to the town council and request additional funding to support the program. Well, local, no.
You had your hand up earlier. There you go.
I'm just curious about Main Street being two-way. There's an accident. You're trying to get whatever down the road. There's no room for anybody to pull over. Right now, at least, everybody can go to one side. And an ambulance and the cruisers, everything can get down Main Street. Cruisers going down Main Street. Everybody pulls to one side. Two-way, there's no place to pull over. What happens then?
Yeah, and so we've had these discussions with our emergency management personnel. There are a number of cross streets which will get you closer to any particular block of Main Street, right? And they're all two-way in this scenario, so there's multiple ways to get in and out of the corridor. But yes, that can be a challenge if there is a blocked roadway, and our emergency personnel will have to find ways to manage that.
But that's all forgotten about the fact that you're putting in stop signs at all these intersections. And traffic is blocked because you're driving slow traffic down Main Street. So now you have more cars coming down because they're not getting through as quickly as they used to. And all you're doing is taking the traffic flow and taking one lane and moving the lane over here. But you still have the same flow. So it's not changing a whole lot to help Main Street.
Yeah, no, there's multiple options is the difference with this configuration.
All have stop signs and still slow down the flow.
Yes. You're absolutely correct, sir.
And also lowers the amount of space that you have going down here. As it is right now on Main Street, a truck stops to deliver beer or whatever to one of the restaurants. He's taking up a lane. And I understand you want to put in a loading zone in particular areas. I would even recommend, say, once you got a set of parking on either side of the road, this side's parking, this side is for loading. You go to the next one and you do the opposite. And you can do it all day long. But to make this two-way, I think you're really hurting yourself. It might make sense to make Old Colony two-way, definitely to get people up to North Street, or down off of Main Street coming in from Yarmouth. But to do two-way all the way down Main Street, I think you're really hurting yourself.
Just a couple of questions. Just a clarification, Griffin, on the one when you show North Street, it shows the lanes, the 10 feet each, and then there's something in the middle, like 3 to 6 feet, uno? What's happening there?
Yeah, so what that's designating is where the center of the center line of the road's shifting. So it's the center line of the road's really shifting by 3 feet to make that work.
But it'll be 10?
It's 10, 10 with a 2-foot stripe buffer and a 4-foot minimum bike lane.
Gotcha, just want to understand
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
And then, just another question, kind of going back to what Councilor Letke had mentioned before, the north side of Old Colony. Jim, I know you said, I remember in the early discussions in the charrettes, the discussion talked about closing that off, making it a pedestrian walkway from the transportation center. And I know you said, Jim, that, early on, it became clear that this was the best option. Can you just, some clarification, what was the problem with closing off that section of Old Colony? Yep. Just what were the reasons why? I'm just curious.
So we looked at all the different access points, and we looked at the south portion, and we looked at the north portion of Old Colony, because we, in our analysis, agreed that a single spoke has to come off no matter what. We have to look at our different options there. The south one is the most redundant. The north one, we looked at it and we talked about our peak times and whether or not it would, what the ratings would be if we closed off Old Colony, both stretches of Old Colony now at this point. And so when vehicles are coming out, yes, we're adding a different option. We're adding South Street now. You can take, South Street, you're always taking a right. South Street now, you're going to be able to take a left. Ocean Street able to go forward, but we would have, I believe, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would have increased that wait time if we were to close off Old Colony. So this whole project is not about moving traffic quicker, but we don't want to further exacerbate the issue. And so we looked at it and we defined that Old Colony at this time on the north stretch needs to stay open. But we want to evaluate it and look at different options. It already is seriously wide, so we have the opportunity to already improve pedestrian amenities there. So we can do the two-way and have the pedestrian amenity potentially. And so we'll continue to evaluate it. I think that is an excellent point. If it truly is another redundant stretch, I think that's an obvious next project to potentially make it a pedestrian or a residential only or what have you, add more green space. There is a parcel of land that we own in between Ocean and Old Colony that we can make a nice pedestrian connection potentially. So there are opportunities. We didn't feel comfortable closing it off though at this point because of that.
And just one final thing, I mean, I would say what I've heard tonight, I think it's a very good point from what Mr. Scudder said, some of the other citizens. Those crossways, as you get all those people going in, the aggressive drivers, the traffic coming through the transportation, people in wheelchairs coming in Old Colony. Right now, just having crosswalks, I see that just being, red flags.
Yep.
It's got to be flashing signs somehow, and that's got to be regulated. Otherwise, there's going to be an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, we've certainly heard that comment loud and clear. So we're going to definitely go back to our team and try and further that comment without a doubt.
My first thing is about the parking. You are talking about taking away some of the things for the deliveries, and then you are saying we're adding parking, but the parking that you're adding is north of North Street or west of Stevens Street. All of that, I mean, I'm elderly, and there are an awful lot of elderly people that are full-time here, and I'm not parking there and walking. That's why the mall is popular. You can park and get right in right there. You're making it blocks before you can even get to what you want to get to. The second thing is on your rotary there, where you have the walkway coming up on Ocean Street, people are going to be walking between cars, because that is where they line up, coming up off of Ocean Street to get onto Route 6. And your walkway is not at the rotary. Somebody's going to be coming around the rotary, and they're going to have to put on the brakes immediately because somebody's going to be in that walkway. And my point is, there are 3 places that I know are total traffic jams in town. One is the airport rotary. The second is down by the boats. And the third one is, I've lost it right now, but coming in from 28 into town. And what you are doing in this particular section is putting all 3 of those things that are problems, a rotary coming in from 28 and the boats all in one center. And then you're adding pedestrians, which we don't have at the airport rotary. I think the whole concept here is an accident waiting to happen.
And our summer economy is based on those pedestrians.
Of course.
Quick question. When the work begins on Main Street, North Street, and South Street, is all the work beginning at once, or are you doing each street individually?
That's a great question. So we're still working through the sequencing plan. The key to the sequencing plan is here, because it's the most disruptive. So we have to work through how that sequence. The stage that we're at now, and between here and the final design part, is where we really start thinking about that sequencing. Also, once we bring the contractor on board, the contractor will have innovative ways to do that as well. We anticipate, a lot of the Main Street work, North Street work, South Street work is striping and signage. That work can all be done at night and should be done at night, right? The accessible ramp work, that can be done during the day because it's kind of off on the side of the roadway. It will have minor impacts, but that'll be done during the day. This will be done you know, some of it may be done at night, some of it may be done during the day, and that sequence plan is something that we're talking a lot about. We've been talking a lot about from the concept stage. Jason's nodding his head because we've asked about this a number of times. We'll continue to try to nail down what that sequence plan is, but that's kind of more the detail that we're advancing towards.
Yeah, right there.
Hi, yes, my name is Patty Erickson Taylor, and this is my spouse, Dawn Erickson Taylor. We live on C Street, and we were there through the whole process of C Street being done. And you said something about, I don't know if it's South Street, that you're going to have the lanes less wide because of it's proven that it slows traffic down. Have you been on C Street lately? It's a roadway from Main Street all the way down to the curb. So I don't know where you're getting it slows traffic down, because it doesn't. Does anybody know on C Street? Thank you.
Councilor Lucky. So just one or two more. It's coming up to 8. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. A couple more questions, and then I'm going to, Griffin and I will be at the back if anybody wants to point to the boards and ask any specifics. Councilor?
Yeah, two things. One, to piggyback on the other question, you know, maybe when you do this, you could phase it in. Maybe do 2 ways on South Street, leave Main Street for a little bit, so you ease it in, not do everything simultaneously. And the second, I wanted to hear from the contractor. We've had a lot of comments from folks that live here and work here. Were you out and about between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.? Did you spend time in these areas? I'm being serious because it's. What were your? Or the deliveries on Main Street? Yeah, I've seen that. There's not a lot of traffic in it. Okay, it just sounds like we need to really be mindful of a 24-hour cycle and what's happening here. Well, most of us are not here.
Yeah, it's
and
fairly,
then,
it's really quiet on Main Street, as Jason mentions there. During the early hours, many of our delivery drivers like to get out there early. I know not all of them come early, but many of them do so because of just that. They don't want to sit in the traffic.
And I think what Sue brought up is very important, and those of us who watch Hyannis News are somewhat startled by what happens here on Main Street after midnight. I think we just need to really be mindful of what really happens here throughout the 24-hour cycle. And as we do this, be mindful. I mean, Sue brings up some really good points that, she has to be escorted to her car. So and somebody else brought up, are we getting more police enforcement? I mean, these are really important things to think about the 24-hour cycle. Thank you.
We'll finish maybe 1 or 2 more, Elizabeth, and then Carol.
Hi, I've been to all of the meetings, of course. It's very important. I have a question for Jason, who's our contractor, who also did a traffic study for the downtown, as well as this whole 2-way study, and was here with Jeff Speck, who is the expert. I have a question. How many downtowns did Jeff Speck turn from 1-way to 2-way? A couple dozen. And did any of them ever turn back? No. Okay. That was one question. The other is, how did he link an extra secure or safe area to the 2-way versus the 1-way?
2-way gives a lot of visibility. And it's important. It's safer for speeds, obviously. 2-way traffic creates a level of friction, and that kind of thing is what makes a downtown slower. That's what Falmouth has. It's a slower system. They don't have any signals in their heart either. But also, it provides visibility that you don't have today. So it's a very important thing is that if you're driving down Main Street, you're not looking on the backside of every building that you pass. And that's the dark corners that make many people uncomfortable. But now when it's 2-way, all those dark corners go away because businesses want to show themselves in that direction as well. And the headlights are lighting them up at night. So it really helps with safety as well. Puts headlights in all aspects of every building.
And one last one.
Back to the rotary that you had. My only concern is that the crosswalk on South Street, and I'm sure, I'm not asking you off the top of your head, but it appears to me as both a pedestrian and a driver that the little piece of road coming off the rotary before you get to the crosswalk is not long enough. the crosswalk is too close to the rotary, because if you stop coming off the rotary for people to cross that crosswalk, you're going to get rear-ended by somebody.
Back here.
So, yeah, so I would, there is a crosswalk there on South Street now, right by the shanties, and they have, as you pointed out, those big flashing lights, which not everybody stops for, but they are very nice to have the flashing lights. And I would just suggest considering moving that crosswalk further away from the rotary to give drivers adequate room so they don't worry about getting rear-ended as they're stopping.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I'm just going to respond to that quickly.
Yep.
So we hear that comment loud and clear. So these distances meet design standards, but design standards aren't one size fit all, right? So we going to take a look at it. We're going to make an improvement and make sure that it's safe.
And with that, I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Griffin and I are going to be hanging around. Thank you so much again. And please keep informed on the project, and do not hesitate to reach out to Griffin and I. We really want to hear from you. Thank you.